Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Griefdrums, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Goyo, the brand new defender that is coming as part of Operation Ember Rise. So as you will no doubt be aware by now, Goyo is the new defender. He is a 2-2 speed and armor, and he is pretty cool, to be completely honest with you. On the face of it, when I first saw it, I thought, you know what? I don't know how powerful that's going to be. And the more I got to use it, the more I started to realize, you know what? This guy is going to fit quite a specific role that is going to be very, very important on certain sites. Of course, that's not to say he's going to be completely limited. I'm sure there are going to be so many different creative ways to use this operator and his awesome gadget, the Volcan Shield. But we're going to go into a couple of different ways that I found were pretty beneficial during the playtest at Ubisoft, and they'll hopefully get you up and running just as the new season drops. So very quickly, we're going to start off with the weaponry and his loadout. He has got both the Vector .45 ACP that Mirror would predominantly run, as well as the TCS G12, the shotgun that Kaid runs. Now, unlike last season with Operation Phantom Sight, both of these weapons are pretty viable despite the fact that we aren't seeing any new ones. Both Mirror and Kaid see a lot of ranked and pro league use, so their weapons are pretty good, so it's nice to see that on a new defender coming in. He also has impacts and a nitro, which I'm going to go into a little bit later on when I break down one of the tips, but for now, let's just jump straight in and start covering the different ways that we can use him and some of the things that you may want to think about when you first pick this operator up. So the first thing I want to really consider is the partnering up with different operators and the way that you can use him to team up with some of the other defenders. With this in mind, it's useful to know that attackers can quite easily destroy these shields, and by doing so, it causes a tiny little explosion and sets off the fire itself. The shields work very well like Capital or Smoke. It's kind of like a cross between the two in the sense that yes, it's fire, yes, it does a lot of damage, but it's kind of utilized as area denial. Setting one of these off means attackers aren't going to be able to move through that area for a good 7 to 10 seconds or so. And just like Capital's firebolts, the time to kill on these things is very, very quick. So as an attacker, the things in your arsenal that are going to be able to take these out are things like grenades, most explosives will probably do it, Ash rounds, Zofia rounds. So one of the first things we actually tried was electrifying it with Bandit, and by doing so, any Ash player that fires her breaching rounds at this, that round is going to get destroyed. So that's definitely something to consider. Another really nice partnership between Goyo and another defender is Kapkan. Now, this isn't a new trick by any means. For the longest time, people have been putting a shield down in a doorway and putting a Kapkan trap about halfway up that shield. So as soon as an attacker vaults over it, it takes them out. And the really good thing about this is it's very, very difficult to actually get to that Kapkan trap to shoot it out. You have to waste utility. You have to use grenades or, like I've said, breaching rounds. But the really nice thing about using the Kapkan traps with these new Volcan shields is the fact that as soon as someone vaults over it, the Kapkan trap goes off, it destroys the shield, which causes the minor explosion, and in turn starts the fire going. So it's not only bad enough that you've been hit by the Kapkan trap and it's done you a good load of damage, but you also start to burn and it's almost an instant death. I personally am definitely going to be taking Kapkan if I see that someone else has picked Goyo, and if I'm playing the new defender, I'm definitely going to recommend that someone takes Kapkan. The next tip I wanted to discuss was the opening of hatches. Now, this was a really interesting one that I believe it was either Tom Wild or Kadir that spotted this, but we were messing around a little bit, and by placing the shield near a hatch, when it got blown up, the tiny explosion that it caused actually opened the hatch. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, there's not going to be many uses for this, but you never ever know. What if you are stuck in a room with no way to get out, and someone has placed one near a hatch? By opening it up, it may just afford you that opportunity to just get out of dodge. The other thing to consider is if it opens hatches, what else does it damage? If it's near a soft wall, is it going to open up lines of sight on that? Because if so, that could be used against you if you don't consider it. Either way, if you've got one of these left towards the end of the round, there is nothing stopping you from moving it near a wall and creating a line of sight, or opening a hatch to maybe rotate back later in the round, especially if you've got no way of doing it. No impact grenades, no shotgun, something along those lines. Tip number 3 is going to be something that you need to really consider when you're playing this defender. Now, I only got to play about 6-7 matches, maybe a couple more than that, but in that short period of time, more often than not, these were working against the defenders. Due to him being a brand new op and everyone just trying out different things, a lot of these shields were placed down at the entries to the site, which makes a lot of sense. However, if the site gets cleared out and the attackers gain entry, anyone that's on a late roam is going to really pay the price. A couple of times I found that people coming back from that late roam, this acted more like a castle to them, where if played incorrectly, it actually just works for the attackers and they can lock you out of sight with it. I even did it myself when I rushed as the new attacker Amaru, got into sight, placed the diffuser, and then used their own shield against them to stop them from getting anywhere near that diffuser. This leads me on nicely to tip number 4. This is going to be more to do with placement, and it's going to be a case of don't just use them in doorways. Now, obviously for the playtest, and as you will see from the majority of the background footage, we only really played Canal, and I have to really go away and think about the kind of places you're going to be able to put this and the way you're going to be able to utilize this Volcan Shield. One of those is going to be Oregon. On the downstairs bomb site laundry, if you put this near the dryer that people try and plant, and set it off just as they're trying to go in for that plant, they're not going to be able to do it. It's going to work like smoke. It's going to work like Kaid. It's going to be that area denial, and it's something that anyone can set off. The other option for this is, instead of putting it in doorways or places that you're going to need at the end of a round, is using them earlier on. By putting a couple of these out and about on the map, your roamers can actually utilize them to get out of dodge. If they're getting pushed from one way, they can shoot the shield and just make a run for it the other way, knowing full well that the attackers cannot chase them down that corridor. Alternatively, by using them in hallways, you can slow the entire push or the entire roam clear, pretty much forcing attackers to either wait it out or push one at a time instead of pinching you. Either way, I can see a lot of versatility with these, and it's just going to take a bit of out of the box thinking. Place it parallel to a window and trigger it. That window is no longer usable for the next 10 seconds. Put it in the middle of a room, the majority of that room is going to get covered instead of just a doorway. The final tip for today, and it took me a little while to figure this out as a defender, you don't need line of sight to actually set these off. Now, obviously, the big red canister, you can shoot at it. Anyone can shoot it, and it's going to trigger this. But what if it's out in a hallway and you can't actually see that red canister without losing your head? Well, that's where the impacts come in. If you've got impact grenades, all you need to do is destroy this, and it's going to set it off. So by throwing one around a corner, that's definitely going to be one of the safest ways to do it. Plus, the impact itself may do a fair bit of damage to any attacker that's near it. I, for one, am really looking forward to seeing the ways that the community are going to use these. I think some of them are going to be really inventive, and some of them are just going to be awful. I can really see pretty much everyone throwing these down in doorways for like the next month or so, until people start to realize just how effective they can be. That's partially the reason for making this video. I want people to try and think as out of the box as you can. Throw them down next to hatches. Throw them somewhere where it's not only going to use the fire to limit that way that an attacker can push, but it's also going to open the hatch so they can't cross that area as well. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I just want to say another huge thank you to Ubisoft for inviting me down to play this early. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of the new Defender? Are you hyped? Are you unhappy? Do you think it's going to be really strong, or do you think it's going to be lackluster and not see any Pro League use at all? Let me know down below. If you did enjoy the video, please consider hitting that thumbs up. If you don't already, make sure to subscribe. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay reckless and relentless.